Welcome to my October Major Themes Human Design Transit Report. In this video, you'll get to learn about the major elements of the transits of the Sun and Earth and also of the outer planets in the human design system for the month of October. The reason that this is so beneficial is it helps you to maximize the potential possibilities that are helpful to you while being able to know, wow, look at the pitfalls that are coming up here. And this is an unusual month for what I'm seeing is coming up. So I think that there's going to be a lot of things that you can take advantage of when you know what they are. Otherwise, they may come and go, and you may not ever realize that you actually had potential for experiencing your energy differently and for really supercharging your whole energy system. So I'm excited about what we get to share, and let's go ahead and dive in. So in these first two images, you can see where the clustering of the activated gates by the Sun and the Earth are during the month of October. And I always like to show these because some months they really do cluster in a particular part of the chart, of the body graph. So you can see here that we have a very strong clustering in the spleen center, which is over here on the right-hand side of the body. It's on the left side of the chart here, but it's on the right-hand side of the body. And actually, I realized that if we were counting the transit that's happening on October 1st, we switch right away on October 2nd. But if I counted that, even the 18 would be lit up, which means every single gate on the spleen is lit up during the course of this month. Now, let's go ahead and just talk about what this means and why this might be important, and what are the things we want to watch out for, and how do we want to embrace and work with these energies. Now, this is particularly important because the spleen is known as a fear center. It's a center for instinct, intuition, the immune system, and right timing. And the reason that we consider this a potential fear center, and all of the gates have fears that are associated with them, which we'll come to in just a second, is that instinct can fall into fear. It doesn't have to, but it can. And so we want to watch out for that. And this is what I'm talking about avoiding the potential pitfalls, because the gates of the spleen also have beautiful positive attributes that you want to find out about. And the best thing you can do during this time is learn about those gates, learn what their fears are, but also look at what their empowered and awakened expression are as well. Because if you find yourself falling into any of the fears that are associated with the spleen center, what you can do, and this is one of the things I love about human design, is you can look at, okay, but what's the positive attribute with this? Now, the best place to look for that is in the Encyclopedia of Quantum Human Design. If you don't already have this, this is a great reference book, and it has definitely more awakened and more empowered expressions of all of the aspects of the system, but particularly the gates. So let's take a look at the fear gates. Okay, so these are all the fear gates of the spleen, and you can screenshot this so that you have this for yourself. Let's just talk about them briefly. Okay, so the gate 57, its fear is the fear of the future. It's highly intuitive. It's known as the most intuitive gate in the whole chart. So with that kind of level of intuition, you could be projecting fear out into the future, right? And getting anxious about that in the present moment. So you want to watch out for that in yourself. If you find yourself projecting fear into the future, which is happening a lot on the planet right now because we are facing a lot of challenges, as a species and as our planet. So it is pretty common right now that people are projecting their fears into the future. But what you want to be able to do is wind yourself back into the present moment and ask for your inner being, which you're connecting with through your strategy and your authority in human design. You want to ask that part to help you to just be purely in intuition and letting the fear dissipate. Now, the gate 44 has the fear of the past. Its more awakened or empowered expression is really about truth. And it's about helping us to be able to tell the truth about the past. And many times what we need to do is retell a story that we've been carrying around with us for a long time to be able to say, you know what, I don't really need to have that story anymore. A lot of times kids, for example, tell a story, their parents are fighting, right? And then eventually their parents decide that they're better off without each other as parents in the marriage. And so they separate, right? And then the kid makes up a story that it's their fault because, they're the one who left their bike out in the rain and then their bike got hurt and then their parents fought about it and then their parents split up. And so the kid decides, oh, that means it was my fault because I left my bike out in the rain that my parents split up. And you can be carrying around a story like that inside of you for a long time. So this is one of those things that you want to kind of unravel in yourself and say, wait a minute, I was a kid. I left my bike out in the rain. Was that really my fault? And did it really have anything to do with my parents splitting up? This is how you can retell a story about the past to be more empowered for yourself now. You're not carrying around some kind of trauma imprint about what happened when you were a kid. So this is about telling a more accurate truth from the present moment about the past. The 48, the fear of the 48 is the fear of not knowing enough. It is a gate that's all about wisdom. It's all about our deeper sense of knowing. It is in the logic circuit, so it does have that quality. We're going to talk a lot about the 48 actually in this report today, so you'll hear more about it. But I'll just say here is whenever you start to feel like you don't know enough with this, you can be like, do I really not know enough? Because the people I know with the 48 defined in their charts, and I am one of them, tend to know more than most other people about whatever it is they get interested in. And yet they always have this fear that they don't know enough. The gate 18, which is active here through the October 1st, is the fear of getting it wrong, right? It's the gate of correction or the gate of realignment. And so it can really get into wanting to make sure that everything is right. And it can project that energy out onto other people as well. So what you want to be able to do is just dial in and say, how can we realign things and bring in more order without a lot of judgment? That's the way to really get out of that fear with the 18. With the gate 50, the fear of the 50 is the fear of letting people down. So this is tribal circuitry and it is in the defense circuit. So it's kind of with our close in people, right? Our families, our close in communities and so on. And so we can have this fear of letting people down. Like we want to be able to support people, but this can really lead to over functioning and over giving and depleting yourself because you're trying to do what you think everybody else wants you to do. And not being really in touch with what is true for you and what you need to do for you. You can lose yourself in this, right? So, but the 50 also is this beautiful energy about how we know who we are as a people, what our values are, and how we can be just kind of acting appropriately for what our standards are. Like use your words, don't hit, right? Things like that. And so the 50 has a really beautiful energy, but you want to watch out for this fear of letting people down because it can lead you away from your own inner guidance by trying to really take care where you don't need to. And then the gate 32 has this fear of failure. It's all about having this energy for having a big business idea. It's in the commerce circuit of the tribal circuit. And so it really is that kind of like this energy for being able to hold on to this idea until the time is right. But its fear is that it's going to fail. It's not going to know when the time is right. And then when it's going to bring it out and that idea is really going to fail or that somebody's going to steal it. That's the other thing that goes with this. Somebody's going to steal your business idea, right? So with this, you want to just be like having a reality check with yourself. It's like, is this really going to fail? Is this something I'm just making up and projecting into my future? Is somebody really going to steal my stuff? Or again, am I just making this up? So have a reality check with yourself so you can move through that fear. And then the 28, the 28. The 28, the gate of struggle or the gate of adventure or challenge is its fear is the fear of life is meaningless. It's very existential. And so it can be a deep, kind of dark one. I have this defined in my chart. I have the whole channel. And so the 28 is really a good one to have another reality check for yourself, right? Like what kind of deep, dark hole am I falling into if I'm falling into that fear of the 28? Whereas instead, I could embrace life's challenges as an adventure. Like, what is this calling me to grow inside of myself so that I can be fully empowered in my life? Because, our challenges are here for us to grow. I mean, generally speaking, some of them we could be like, I'd rather not have that one. But, this is actually how we become more and more mature, how we empower ourselves is through meeting challenges. So that's what you want to do with the 28 is turn that kind of existential, nothing means anything. I'm kind of like, your energy's kind of like this, right? You want to perk it up and say, I'm ready for the challenge. Let's go for it. Now, I'm going through these in some detail, and you can come back over the course of the month when each one of them is lit up. And I will be covering these in the individual transit reports as well. But the reason that I'm going through this is that fear is really strong on the planet right now. I mean, we do have war breaking out in different parts of the planet. We have had war, but it's happening on a different scale and a different way. And I know that that is creating a lot of fear for people. Here in the United States, we have a really big election that's coming up. That can definitely stimulate your fears as well. We have all kinds of earth changes that are happening. We just had a major hurricane come in here in the United States. We had this major flooding in Europe, all kinds of stuff, right? There's all kinds of things that if you're focusing on the outer world, it can stimulate your fear. And then if these gates are being lit up by that spleen center, there's just a lot of energy on that spleen. And you also want to look as if you have electromagnetics, which means the matching gate of any of these to be like, oh, wow, because that could mean that any one of the other centers can be getting lit up for you and your spleen can getting defined if you don't already have a defined spleen. So there's a lot going on here. And so the best thing that I can say to you at this point with this is make sure that you're really taking the time to ground yourself, to breathe, to drink water, to lie on the earth, to sit with your back up against a tree, to spend some time out in the living world, because that always helps to dissipate our fear, as long as you're not in the middle of a hurricane or something. But generally, it really helps to dissipate our fear. And you can even ask the earth to take your fear, or you can take, if you go to the ocean or a river, or if you're even in a forest, you can say, I really want to release this energy out into the cosmic compost where it can be recycled for the highest good of all, because it's really just energy and it's how we interpret it that makes us feel fear. And in our breathwork community, we say that fear is excitement without breath. So if you breathe in breath, whether that's just doing long, deep breaths, or if you join me doing some of the Kundalini yoga practices that I offer inside of my community, there's lots of different ways that you can shift the way that you're interpreting that energy. And I think that if you do that for yourself this month, you're going to find that you're going to get a lot of relief from, kind of the intensity of what's going on. Now, in this image, I'm just showing you what all of the different transits are that are going on during the month of October and where the sun is and the earth is. And again, this is something you can screenshot for yourself. You can keep it in your calendar. It might be something that can guide you through. You could do that with a screenshot of the fear gates as well. So you can kind of see when are these being lit up, what's happening, so that you can prepare yourself for the month that's coming. Now, with this next image, I want to share with you about something that is very unusual that jumped out at me while I was looking at all of this data, which I've never seen so much of this, which is that over the course of the month, and you can see in 1, 2, 3, 4 of our transits this month, we're going to have a channel that's completely defined, which means both of the centers on either side of them are also going to be defined. So what this means is that for all of us, we're going to be experiencing a lot more definition than we usually do. Let me just show you what this looks like in terms of taking a look at the centers that are being lit up. So you can see here, we've got the ajna, the throat, the G center, the will, the sacral, and the root center. I didn't include the spleen here, but we absolutely could, because chances are you're going to be getting it lit up if it's open in your chart, because of the electromagnetics that are happening there. Because like I said, all the different gates on the spleen are lit up, right? So chances are at some point your spleen center is going to get defined this month as well. So what this means is that as we go through, so from October 2nd to the 7th, we're going to have the 4521 that's lit up, which is over here. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in a second. And that is going to light up the will center and the throat center for all of us. Now, if you already have this lit up, you're not going to feel it as much. But if you don't, then you will. And for most of us, we have our will center open. 7 out of 8 of us have our will center open, which means a lot of people are going to have that will center defined when they usually don't. So that's going to be true for each one of these for October 13th through the 15th. We're going to have the ajna and the throat center defined because we have the North Node in the 17, and then we've got Mars in the 62. And so that whole channel is going to get lit up during this time. Then during October 19th through the 24th, we're going to have the 360 lit up. So now Pluto has been in the 60, way down there in the root. It's been there for months and months and months, and it's going to be there, I think, through early January, like middle of January. And so Pluto's been there, but now we've got the Earth during this particular transit is going to be lighting up the gate 3. And so that whole channel is going to be lit up. And then even later in the month, October 22nd to 26th, we're going to have a G center, throat center definition happening through the 1-8 that's happening here. Okay. So there's a lot going on, right? You can see all of these different centers. Again, if we take a look at this image with all the different centers, that means that we have 7 out of 9 centers that are going to be lit up during the course of this month, and then also the associated channels. So this is going to impact our reflectors a lot. I'll just say that right now. I have a number of reflectors in the Sovereign Sisterhood. So I want to just shout that out to my reflectors because you're going to be feeling a lot more definition than you usually do. But anyone who has a really more open chart, like I know I just have 4 of the 9 centers defined. So I'm going to be experiencing my throat and my ajna and my will. So that's 3 more centers that I don't usually have to find in my chart. I'm going to be feeling during those particular transits. So one of the things you can do is pull out your chart and you can take a look at, okay, what centers are going to be colored in for me, going to be defined this month that are usually white in my chart. And when is that going to happen? And you can track this and be like, wow, how does that feel in my body? Now that I have this defined ajna, and it'll be the throat too, because it's that they go in pairs, right? So because this is the channel, it's actually over here, this channel that's being defined. And so the head and the throat, or the ajna and the throat, are getting lit up, right? Those are 2 centers I don't usually have defined. Most people have an open ajna. Most people have a defined throat, but the ajna is usually open. So like I said, it's going to be influencing all of us differently. And the positive part of this is that we're going to get to be feeling energies that we don't usually feel. And it doesn't have to come from another person, right? And so this can be really juicy and exciting to be feeling like, wow, like for those of you with an open G, right? This is not going to come from another person. It's going to be coming from the transit. And so you can start to feel that G center for yourself. What is that like to have a defined G? And then when the transit moves on, oh, now that's gone. What is that like? Because the G is another really important center. When it's open, it really influences you a lot. So this is a great assignment for you this month if you're really kind of studying your human design, and it may be a little bit more of advanced for some of you who are not as familiar. But the main thing I want you to take away, if this is newer material for you, is to know that you're going to be experiencing your energy differently this month, and to take time to, like I said, ground, pause, breathe, spend some time in nature. Get yourself in a living bottle of water if you can. I mean, if it has to be a pool or a tub, it's fine. But if you can get in living water, that's even better. Because all of these things help us to kind of dissipate energy that isn't in our highest good, and it helps to activate our prana or our chi more so that we have more vitality. So this will help us to manage the changes in the energy that are going to be going on. There's going to be a lot of shifting. And when you marry this with the astrology that's going on right now, we've got a lot of intensity in the astrology. I just want to see if there's a way I can support you as much to be able to be navigating and riding the waves that are happening, and for you to know it's not you. There's nothing wrong with you. You're not doing anything wrong. This is about really powerful energy that is influencing all of us. And so, take good care, be kind to yourself, and be kind to one another. So let's take a little bit of time to take a look at the outer planets. Now, this schematic, it only has 8 planets in it. I think they probably left Pluto out because somewhere in the infinite wisdom of the people who make these kind of decisions, they decided that Pluto is not a planet. But in human design and in astrology, Pluto is definitely still a planet and an important heavenly body. But I wanted to show you this of the relative size of the planets. Now, this is obviously isn't them in their orbit, but we've got Jupiter here on the left. And I think sometimes we just don't realize how massive Jupiter is, right? Jupiter is the god of expansion, and there's a reason. Jupiter's huge, right? And then Saturn looks big, but it's really quite a bit smaller than Jupiter. The rings make it look bigger. Then we have Neptune over there on the right, which is that beautiful blue, and Uranus I didn't name here, but Uranus is the other blue. And then we have Earth and Mars and Venus and Mercury. Okay, so those are the smaller inner planets. But the outer planets, I wanted to just show you the scale because we talk about how influential the outer planets are, but a lot of times it's like, why are the outer planets so influential? Well, part of it is they're massive. They're so big. And so the energy that they emit is really strong. Now, let's just take a look at them. This is the order of the outer planets from the sun. So here we have Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and there's Pluto. Yay! We want Pluto because Pluto is really important. So there's not a lot of change that's happening in the outer planets this month. The one big change that we have is that Neptune moves into the gate 36 on October 1st. Otherwise, we're kind of in the same stuff that's been going on. And I wanted to dig into a little bit of it, a little bit more deeply, particularly with Jupiter. So let's talk about Jupiter for a minute. Like I just said a moment ago, Jupiter is this god of expansion. And in human design, we generally think of Jupiter as our blessings, right? And generally we think of Jupiter as being auspicious energy. But let's also remember that Jupiter can be prone to excess because it just kind of expands, right? That's its energy as it expands. So we like it when it expands our vitality or expands our prosperity or expands our reputation in a positive way, or, right, it expands our resources. It expands our love and our heart energy. We love it when it expands all those things, right? But when it expands our tendency to excess, which is maybe eating too much or drinking too much or even spending too much time binge watching television, right? It can expand those things as well. So we want to work with Jupiter in a positive way and recognize that Jupiter is an ally. All of the planets, all of these are allies for us. But we also need to be smart about it and we need to be aware. And the more aware we can do that, then we can dance with these gods, right? I love what Caroline Casey, she has a book called Making the Gods Work for You, right? Which is how do we dance with the gods? How do we have friends with them? So like I said, just watching out for also how Jupiter can be expanding your excess in ways that you don't want to, but also Jupiter can be expanding what you, really what you desire. So let's dig into this just a little bit more. So during this time, Jupiter is in the gate 45. Jupiter's been in the gate 45. Jupiter's going to be in the gate 45 through early December. And so we really want to be looking at Jupiter in this gate 45 and to be thinking about what does this mean for us? Now, let's go ahead and dial this in terms of this first transit that's happening in October. Because like I said, we have Jupiter over here in the 45, and then the 21 is going to be lit up by the Earth. And so we're going to have this whole channel. So I was talking just a few minutes ago about that we're going to have all these channels and we're going to have all these centers that are lit up. So you can see here that the throat is lit up and the will center is lit up because of that 45-21 that's happening. So the 45 is known in traditional human design as the king gate or the queen gate or the monarch or the sovereign. So this is kind of a feudal definition, right, of royalty. But in our more contemporary times, we can translate this into sovereign energy. Now, in its most empowered and awakened state, the sovereign energy is benevolent, it's regal, it's generous, and it's about distributing resources for the highest good of all. This is the leadership energy in the tribal circuit. And so we want this to be an energy where we are really thinking about what's best for everyone. How can we participate in making sure people have what they need? How can we be participating in the distribution of resources? The 21 is really about managing resources of all kinds, including self-management, which is what it's been renamed in quantum human design. But that 21 is really kind of about calculating, bringing together resources, making sure that we all have the resources that we need. And then that 45 is more about distributing them. So if we think about Jupiter being here in this 45, we want to be paying attention to how are we embodying and expressing the energy of that 45 during this pretty long transit that Jupiter is in the 45. And now it's going to be extra highlighted during this first week, really, of October. And so it's important to know that the shadow of the 45 is authoritarianism. Okay. It's this kind of top-down authority. And it is this power over strategy. And its disempowered energy is feeling like you're at the mercy of authoritarian energy, right? That you're being controlled and manipulated by outside forces. And so all of these different interpretations of that gate 45 are available right now, and Jupiter will expand. So this is one of the things that's important to really get. Jupiter will expand whatever your expression of the 45 is. So if you've been more in a disempowered state, feeling like there's authoritarian energy that is trying to control and manipulate you, it will expand that. If you've been using power over strategies, either consciously or unconsciously, to try to control and manipulate things outside of yourself so that you can feel more safe and you can bring more and more resources to yourself and you can kind of hoard them in, that'll expand that. But it'll also expand your sense that we have plenty of resources. We have enough for everyone. We can be generous with what we have. We just need to take a look at how things are distributed. And are we bringing them all into the collective good and then seeing how they can be distributed in ways that are equitable, right? Which is an aspect of the new world that we're really calling in, right? We're wanting to unravel this power over way of being that has led to the concentration of wealth in the hands of a very few number of people. And it's just getting more and more extreme, right? And so this whole alignment is potentially challenging that. And we are also in this time where, just to throw in here, Pluto's in Capricorn, and Pluto is saying, what are we letting go of the old world, right? What are we letting go of the old order? And so Pluto is an ally for you here. If you've been feeling like you're at the mercy of these authoritarian forces, or if you've been unconsciously even acting out, trying to, kind of hoard and gather things to yourself and being kind of controlling and manipulative, which any of us can fall into when we fall into fear. Okay, absolutely. Any of us can do that. And unfortunately, we've been trained to do that to a large degree. So just know that if you've done that, it's not necessarily your fault. But knowing this, it is your responsibility and your opportunity to change it, to step into a way of being that is more regal, right? That is more benevolent, that is more compassionate and kind and generous. Because the truth is there are enough resources on the planet for everyone. It's just the way that they're distributed. So this is one of the things that Jupiter is just going, okay, how are you embodying and expressing this energy? And it'll be super lit up even more while this particular channel is going on here. Now, in traditional human design, this channel is known as the money line, right? Because it is about money, but it's not just about money. It's also about energy. It's about opportunity. It's about even things like air, water, and land, because these are all, we think about them as resources. But the truth is they're not resources for certain people in the world to hoard and decide who gets them. At least this is my point of view, right? They are something that is the birthright of every person here, and also the birthright of all of the other species. And so we as a humanity really need to disrupt this idea that this is just about money, right? And about profit-driven forces being able to use the resources of the planet the way that they want to, and to recognize that the resources of the planet are for everyone, right? It's like there's no other species on the planet that has decided it's okay to to pollute the communal air supply or the communal water supply or the communal soil, right? So this is one of those, like, we need to wake up, right? We need to really wake up to this and be like, okay, what can we do about it? What can we do about it? And so my invitation for you, especially during this time, during this first week of October, this is our first transit, is for you to be looking at, how can I participate in shifting our perspective and our energy around resources, shifting it away from thinking of it as the money line to think of it as the, it's all about distribution. It's about gathering and distributing resources in a way that is more equitable, that'll support really, all of us on the planet, including the trees, all the animals, the slithering ones, the winged ones, the two-leggeds, the four-leggeds, and the eight-leggeds, and so on. Okay, so that's Jupiter. Big opportunity for us. And for those of us in the United States, notice that Jupiter is going to be in that 45 all the way through our presidential election. So Jupiter is going to be saying to us, what kind of energy are you supporting, right? Are you supporting authoritarianism? Are you supporting more benevolence and compassion, and that there is enough for all? So that's Jupiter, and Jupiter in the 45. And Jupiter is going to be there in the 45 through December 2nd. And so this is all the way through the presidential election in the United States. And so we're really being asked to, what kind of energy do we want to embody around this gate 45? So let's talk about Neptune. So Neptune is another gas giant. It's this beautiful blue, and it's moving into the gate 36 on October 1st. Now, Neptune has been in the gate 25, which is on the G center and is the love of spirit. And so it's been a beautiful energy to have Neptune lining up, because Neptune is also very spiritual. It's very intuitive. It's one of the more feminine planets, and beautiful feminine energy. It's also emotional, and it's also it has to do with visioning and dreams and the unconscious and the underworld and like that. So now Neptune is moving into the 36, and the 36 is on the emotional solar plexus, which is over here on the left-hand side of the body. And it is all about energy, emotional energy. And one of the things to know about the emotional solar plexus, and this is always true when it's lit up, is that it needs time. And this is a key thing for the 36. Because the 36 is known as crisis in traditional human design, or exploration in quantum human design. And so the 36 can get really jaded. It can get like, oh, I'm bored. I've already done everything. Nothing's really very interesting. Can be a little grumbly that way, right? It can get a little melancholic that way. It can even go, into a negative state, and it can go into a crisis. And if it goes into that kind of negative, this is kind of the disempowered expression of that 36. If it goes into crisis, it can kind of jump into things quickly, trying to change its state. But the thing is that it's emotional energy. So it needs some time. It needs time to really discern what is the right thing for me to do. And rather than jumping into something, to kind of explore, give yourself a little more time, kind of stick a toe in and see, is that right for me? Is that something that I want to engage in? I want to move towards. So it's a beautiful energy when you do approach it with that attitude of, I'm just going to try some things out. I'm just going to see how it goes. I'm not going to get into a whole thing about, how meaningful it is or anything. I'm just going to kind of go for it, right? And this is also an energy about helping us to let go some of the conditioning of the past, because part of what can make us jaded or bored or whatever is our mindset, right? It's our attitude about things. It's very attitudinal. And where does our attitude come from? It comes from the past, right? And so if we can change our attitude and we can change our relationship to the past, we can move from this sense of crisis or boredom into one that's more, I'm willing to step into the unknown. I'm willing to go into new things that I haven't tried before, I haven't experienced before. Or I'm also willing to try things or move into things that maybe I have had some experience with before, but I'm going to do it with a new attitude, right? I'm going to go into my beginner's mind. I'm going to say, okay, I'm just going to give it another shot. I'm going to let go whatever my judgments are of the past, and I'm going to try again. And this is a great way for us to just kind of let go the weightedness and the burden that we can feel about the past. Now, in human design, Neptune is also one of our spiritual themes. So this is a spiritual theme for us, is how do we move more from that kind of melancholic crisis, nothing really matters, kind of a feeling, into I'm going to explore the unknown. And this is a part of our soul curriculum, if you will, while Neptune is lighting it up. It's going to give us a lot of extra energy for us to be able to kind of flip our association. So I would definitely encourage you to be taking a look at that for yourself while Neptune is lighting up this gate. And Neptune's going to be in the 36 all the way through the middle of February. So it's a good time for you to be working with this energy and realize, wow, I have an opportunity here to change my relationship to the past and to change my attitude and really kind of construct a way of being and an approach that is going to be more beneficial for me. So let's dig into this transit that starts on October 2nd that I just talked about this one channel here. Let's dig into the other aspects of that as well. So on October 2nd, the sun is going to move into the gate 48 and the earth is going to move into the gate 21. Now, we just talked about the gate 21 a second ago, having to do with this channel that we have over here, because it's the gate on the will center, right? So we did talk about the 21. So here in this image, it's called the treasure, self-regulation. Sometimes it's also called the CEO. It's really kind of, or it's like a project management energy. I actually like to call the 21. This is my number one gate. My sun is in the 21, my conscious sun. And so I actually like to call it stewardship, because it's tribal energy, and stewarding is how we are really well managing resources. Okay. So even though it's been renamed self-regulation or self-management in quantum human design, I think that stewardship is a better term because it is tribal energy. And so we want to look at, yes, of course, we're stewarding our own energy, but we're also stewarding our world. And this is part of the invitation, as I was just talking about what kind of leadership do we want to have in that 45? And also what kind of stewardship do we want to have in that 21? So we have a beautiful opportunity, well, this earth is lighting up that 21, to really be asking ourselves, how are we participating in stewarding our planet, right? Like, are you growing any of your own food, or are you participating in a community garden? Or could you, if you haven't already, or are you participating in planting any more trees, or doing a beach cleanup? Or, there's so many different things that we can do. I know in our world here in Northern California, there's been a lot of remediation of places where there's been a lot of fires, for example. There's all kinds of ways that any of us can participate to help steward our world in a better way. So during this transit, this is a great time for you to just kind of be feeling into that. If you're not already doing something like that, to kind of be like, I wonder what that could be for me, and to kind of lean into it and see what comes to you, because you might just get some beautiful downlights that come from that. So the earth in the gate 21, right? We're really grounding ourselves in that gate 21, is providing a foundation for the sun in the gate 48. I talked about the gate 48 a minute ago, just talking about its fear. But let's talk about it a little bit more, just what the 48 is. So the 48 is a beautiful energy. It's in the logic circuit. And it is about research. It's about learning. So the sun lighting up that gate 48 is our opportunity to open up to a deeper sense of learning. It is logical. So it does ask for research, and it does like data, and it does like all of that kind of more left brain understanding. But in addition to that, it's really about wisdom. And wisdom is something that gets created through life experience. It's not something that just happens through book learning or through, reading or watching videos, or even through taking a course. It happens through application. So I talk about this quite extensively in a video that I did about the lunar eclipse that is happening on October 2nd. I'm going to talk about that a little bit more here, but you can go and watch the video that I did about the lunar eclipse because it's in the gate 48, and I talk about that much more extensively. But here, let's just talk a little bit about this lunar eclipse here. But then if you want more in depth, go and check out that video. So the 48 is super highlighted right here at the very beginning of the month because, yes, we have the sun that is in the 48, and then we also have the moon that's in the 48, because whenever we have a new moon, the sun and the moon are going to be in the same gate. But then in addition to that, we also have Mercury is in the 48 as well. So you can see these lit up on the body graph image here. So that's what it looks like in the body graph image. But let's take a look at this little piece from the mandala. I pulled this piece out from the mandala because I knew that there were a lot of things that were congregating here. And you can see that there's the sun and there's the moon, which is what we would always expect in it for a new moon. But we also have Mercury is there. And then we also have Lilith, the dark moon. And not only that, we have right next to it the south node. So this is a south node lunar eclipse. Now you can see all of these are in Libra. And so, yes, the south node is in Libra. And it's just barely moved over into the gate 18. But basically, in terms of the astrology of it, we tend to see these things as all kind of right all together. So you can see this configuration in this gate 48. So go and check out that video I did about the lunar eclipse because I talk about this much more extensively, and I don't want to repeat all of that here. But the thing that I will say is that during this eclipse time, this is an opportunity for us to be looking at, all right, so the south node is what we brought in with us, and what do we need to let go of, whatever that old order is. So we've got a theme going on. Pluto's still in Capricorn. What are you letting go of the old order? Here we've got an eclipse with the south node. What are you going to let go of? The eclipse itself is also a little bit of like, what are you going to let go of, right? Generally, we think of new moons as beginnings, right? It's a time to plant seeds. It's a time to set intentions. And you certainly can do all of that here as well. But you also want to do it in alignment with what are you letting go of? Because there's a very strong kind of stripping away of the old that's happening here with this eclipse, as well as what's happening with Pluto. And the kind of the challenge that Jupiter is giving us here right now. So as we dig into this, Lilith is also a figure that is very much about like, I'm not going with your program. You know, I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to follow my, what's true for me, what's my character, what my inner guidance says, right? Because if we remember the mythology about Lilith is that she was Adam's first wife. So called, right? And she was kind of like, no, I'm not going to subordinate myself to this guy. It's like, I'm a whole, complete, vital being in and of myself. I am not going to put myself into the box that you want to put me into, right? So Lilith is very much a kind of rebellious, revolutionary, I'm going to do my own thing. I always think of it as very related to individual circuitry, really. And so that we've also got that energy coming in here, right? So she's kind of like pushing away. Again, whatever that program is that you told me I should do in the past, whatever that conditioning was, is that you told me is how I was going to be successful or how I was going to be healthy or how I was going to be happening. I'm not buying any of it. I'm not buying it. And so Lilith is also bringing in her brand of wisdom into this particular alignment as well. So there's just a lot of supercharge. And according to the astrologers, they say that this energy is going to be with us at least through the end of this year. And so eclipses are very powerful energies, even though they happen, in the sky for a short period of time. Their influence goes on and goes on and goes on for quite some time. So this is a really good one for you to be paying a lot of attention to here at the beginning of October. Okay, so that was our new moon in Libra and our solar eclipse. Then we have a full moon that's happening on the 17th, and I will talk about this more extensively in the transit reports that follow later in the month. But we have a full moon that's happening in the gate 42, and it's in Aries is its astrological sign. And so we always have the Earth and the moon together in the same gate for any of the full moons. And the gate 42 is the energy for finishing things or for concluding things. It's the energy for kind of wrapping things up. So this is a really great time while the Earth is in the 42, and especially we have this full moon on it, right? So there's going to be a lot of emphasis on what are we completing? What can we complete during this time? And we can see the theme is like everywhere during this month. It's like, what are we completing? What are we finishing? What are we letting go? Right? What are we excavating? It's just like so much of clearing away, finishing things up so that we can let them go. So with full moons, right? If full moons is like the crescendo, right? Of it's the fullest part, the brightest part that the moon gets to. We kind of think of this as a time for finishing things or time for concluding things. And then we kind of wane after that. So there is an alignment between the 42 and the full moon, but the full moon is also kind of a celebration too, right? It's like so what is it that you want to complete? What is it that's been on the back burner that, when you think of it, you're like, I should really take care of that. I should really do that. Right. And you might find, because this is a full moon, that things get a light shown on them that you have been trying to ignore or that you have been ignoring. Right. And it might just come right up in your face. And so use this energy to your advantage to be able to complete some things. It's a really great time to just get that thing done that you've been thinking about. And we'll talk more about this when we get into our transit ports over the course of the month. And it's a new month, which means we have a new theme happening in the Sovereign Sisterhood. The Sovereign Sisterhood is my online community. It's a global quantum sisterhood where we are connecting during the course of the month. We have live events that happen through the month, which focus on a particular monthly theme. And then we also gather and we talk and we converse. And this month, we're going to be focusing on the human design authorities and also connecting with activating, accessing, and expanding our inner guidance, because our human design authorities are all intuitive, they're all spiritual, and they're all about our ability to connect with our inner guidance. So these very much go together. This is still a continuation of Pillar 1 from Feminine Sovereignty that has to do with our connection with the all that is, with spirit, with the creative intelligence of the universe. So we'll be digging into that during the course of this month. You are invited to come and join us if you want to. You get a first free week to come in and check things out. And I want you to know that the live sessions that we do are always recorded. Many times people like to just watch the teachings and the practices that we do on their own time and then come together during our pod session where the members all get to connect with each other, or at the end of the month where I'm there to answer questions, to provide mentoring, and for us to have a general discussion about what's really up for you during this time. But then in addition to that, in the sisterhood, we have all kinds of content that you can dig into. We have curated courses that I've put together from my YouTube videos. We also have recordings of workshops that I've done in the past, community events, and all kinds of evolutionary practices that you can use along with your human design understanding that will help you to, gain more mastery of your energy field, of your belief system, of your mindset, and to increase your vitality and your ability to engage with life in ways that are really meaningful for you. We're entering into our third month, and this is really, really evolving into a beautiful community. So if you're wanting to connect more with me, if you're wanting to connect more with others on your own path of awakening, I encourage you to come and check it out and to be with us if you want to. And so the link for that will be down below, and I'll be here at the end of the video. If you have any questions, please do just reach out to me, and I'd love to chat with you. Okay, many blessings. Much love. Bye for now.